A good couple of weeks ago now, Mario released to us, and this is Mario from MOBI, the API. This is an unofficial API using data that he harvests from the game himself automatically for market data. In here we have all kinds of things like minerals, planetary materials, and even PLEX included. So I figured when he made this announcement, I was going to start keeping a track of certain prices for the sake of keeping a track of the economy with regards to our prices going up because of supply and demand, you know, that sort of stuff. But of course, I couldn't do a video straight off the bat because it was week 1 and all we had was 1 week's worth of data. That's it, just one static line. So we had nothing that we could track. And I figured my first video, I needed at least 3 weeks worth of data just so that we can track it. So as we can see, I now have 3 weeks worth of data that we can look at. Of course, I've gone with the naming strategy of week 11, 12 and 13 and so on. Don't worry, I'm not going to read out every single one of these things, okay? Now, there is a bit of a disclaimer. Week 11 and week 13, those did come from Mario's API tool. Week 12, however, the API tool was down because NetEase released an update that had lots of tinkering on the back end. Tinkering that was intended to make the game much more stable. So, of course, week 12, I had to pull the data manually from in the game by going to each market item, looking at it and typing it all up. So, yeah, as I said, we're not going to go through every single one of these items. If you want to pause the screen and take a look to see if your favourite planetary material has gone up or down, feel free. I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom where we have it all summarised. And, of course, I do have a graph. The graph is a bit hard to follow trends with at the moment because, as you can tell, it's lacking a lot of time to actually make these trends more viewable or visible. I don't know what words are meant to be using here. Yeah, this is a new format for me. So, yeah, I'm not going to be focusing too much on the graph in the early days, so we're just going to have a look at the summaries that I've got at the bottom of the screen. Let's start at the beginning. What are the totals that we're going to be keeping a track of throughout this series of videos? Because this is a video that's going to be going live every week or two. If things stay relatively static for the week, I might not do a video. If things start changing quite dramatically, then of course I'll be doing videos. So first up we have Morphite. The reason why this one is on its own is because it represents the demand for capital ships. If the value of Morphite goes up, then that means there's an increase in capital ship demand or production, whichever it may be. All minerals represents the demand for mining in general, for any kind of building, whether that be ship building, structure building, maybe even implant building, because implants use minerals, although not that much. Planetary is broken down into 3 categories. We have ships, for, of course, shipbuilding. That will most likely be going towards capital ships, I would imagine. But we also have cobalt. Cobalt is meant to represent all of the planetary materials that are exclusive to the new regions, whether that be Cobalt Edge, the Kalevala Expanse, or the new one whose name I haven't had a chance to memorise yet. We'll get there. And lastly, we have planetary for structures. So of course, these are just the totals for those groups of PI. I've broken all of those down, and at the end, of course, we have PLEX. PLEX is sitting on its own, and the idea here is to keep a track of PLEX. I need to get my chair in a position whereby I'm actually in the middle of the portrait. Yeah, getting used to the new setup. Anyway, as I was saying, we're going to be keeping a track of PLEX prices as well. So anyway, those are the categories that I'm going to be keeping a track of. So let's start at the top, shall we? So Morphite over the past couple of weeks has consistently been going up. It started off in week 11 at about 20.7 thousand, went up to 21.7 and then to 22.1. So there's a consistent increase in the demand for Morphite as far as we can tell here. Now, of course, I'm guessing that there's a consistent demand for Morphite. You have to bear in mind, all we can see here are the prices. We can't see how much Morphite was mined and how much Morphite was consumed by the system. We don't know the supply and the demand. All I can presume is that there was no change in supply, that the same miners as always were out mining. and therefore that the demand has increased. Again, this is me guessing. We can only do educated guesses with these prices without more granular detail. And that's just going to be a disclaimer for all future videos with this market watch. So for now, it's just guessing, but more fighters going up, so I'm going to trust that to mean that the demand for capital ships is going up. Unless, of course, I see a news article from Damon Zell saying every single miner in the game has rage quit, in which case we know the answer there. So moving on to the next one is all minerals. So this is representing the demand as a whole for miners and the value of your mining barge as you continue to go out mining every day. Week 11, 24.4 thousand for the cost of all minerals combined. That's one of each mineral that's currently available in the game. This started off at 24.4, as I've already said, and at the end of week 13, it had consistently gone up to 25.9. So there is an increase in demand here for minerals as a whole also. So that is one nice thing to see for miners. The value of your ore holds is still consistently going up. Moving on, and this is where we'll be able to see more where the minerals are being spent. So planetary ships has consistently been going down. So shipbuilding PI has been in lower demand over the past 3 weeks. We started off with one of each of the shipbuilding PI starting at 196,000.9. Okay. Then it went down to 183.3. Now we're on 169.8 or 9, whichever way you want to round it. That's a consistent trend, and it's not a small trend. It's gone down quite significantly. And if we move along to cobalt, we can see that, of course, the demand for the cobalt edge planetary materials has gone down in sync with it. So it's safe to say that shipbuilding has slowed down over the past 3 weeks, and quite significantly. In fact, if I just pull up a calculator without typing on top of the spreadsheet itself, let's have a look. So let's just drag. Hold on. Why am I pulling up a calculator? Okay, wow. Okay, I've got to keep this in. I'm pulling up a calculator to do a calculation on top of a spreadsheet that I could just type into. Wow. Okay, Hale. Your brain is really not all there today, is it? And this is future Hale here. It turns out when I was messing around typing on top of the spreadsheet, I accidentally pressed the end key on my keyboard and carried on talking to myself for another 5 or 10 minutes without noticing that OBS was not recording. So let's try the second half of this video, shall we? I only noticed when I got as far as the editing, and I was like, why have I just stopped on Cobalt Edge? So I got as far as figuring out that the demand for Cobalt Edge materials had gone down by 17% over the past 3 weeks. So then there was a fair bit of a ramble. I don't know what I rambled about exactly. Now my phone's ringing, but I'm going to ignore that. We'll move on to planetary structures before this happens again. So, planetary structures is a bit of a weird one. So, what I was expecting here was, with there being an increase in demand for minerals, I mean, there's mining happening for a reason, somebody's building something, and it's not shipbuilding. There's not been an increase for shipbuilding, because as we can see, both ships and cobalt categories have gone down. So I expected there to be an increase in line with what we're seeing with these other two categories for structure building, for planetary structures. But what we're seeing actually instead is it went up ever so slightly from 10.9, which was almost 11, to 11.2, and then back down again to an even lower number of 10.7. Yeah, at 10.7 thousand. That's curious. That means that there's an increase in demand for minerals, but it's not going into ships or structures. So where's it going? Where are the minerals going? That's the question I've got for this video. Where are the minerals going? Are they implants? Are people just suddenly pouring minerals into implants? Or is there something else that I completely missed in the most recent patch notes? If you have an idea as to what the answer is, let me know in the comment section below. And of course, we have PLEX. NetEase made it relatively clear earlier this year that they want to get PLEX prices back down, and they made this statement by changing the insurance system to try and reduce the amount of demand on PLEX. Of course, we don't know how big a change that has had so far, because I've only just started tracking these prices. If anybody else has been tracking these prices, then they might have a better idea than me. But all we can see right now is that in week 11, when Mario's API started, we were at 9.25 million per PLEX. It then went up in week 12 to 9.588 million, and then down ever so slightly to 9.576 million. Yes, it did go down, but I would relate it more to the price simply stalling as opposed to going down. Because it didn't go down by very much now, did it? It went down by, let's say, 0.01 million. So 10,000 ISK, thereabouts. I'm doing mental arithmetic here. If I dare start typing, I'm going to break this again and end up recording this segment for the 3rd time. So I'm just going to hands off for now, hands off. So it's curious, PLEX prices have stalled a little bit. This might mean that whatever NetEase is doing is actually working and PLEX prices might be about to go down. Or this just could be a weird anomaly, an anomaly that might happen every month or so that we simply are unaware of because people haven't been tracking it quite so much over the past few years. That might be the case, I honestly don't know. Of course, like many other people, I have my own ideas as to how NetEase could fix the PLEX problem. And I think it's safe to say they're not going to go quite as far as I'm thinking here. Because if they just got rid of the box system, let indie players build the big new exciting ships when they're released, and let the whales buy them off the indie players, and the whales could afford them by spending those same pounds and dollars, you know, 200, 300, whatever it may be, straight into the game, into AUR, convert that into PLEX, convert that PLEX on the market to ISK, and then buy it off of the indie player. You'd then have, let's say, $300 worth per whale of extra PLEX injected onto the market. At the moment, PLEX doesn't make it onto the market when these boxes are sold, which is a bit of a shame really. If NetEase found... There's an idea actually. If NetEase found a way of selling the boxes still in the current format, but made a requirement, kind of like the reimbursement system. I'm going off topic a bit now. This is literally an idea that's just come to me, so I'm really glad that I ended up re-recording this segment. But what if NetEase were to put in some weird mechanic, right, whereby you would get your boxes, but you couldn't outright buy them, okay? You had to put PLEX on the market and successfully sell it to then be able to go over to the event page and claim your boxes. How about that? So you have, let's say, 3,000 PLEX. I don't know, I'm just pulling a number out of my arse here. Let's say you have an event page, and that event page says convert 3,000 AUR into PLEX and then sell it on the market. And you see the progress bar, you know, like you've got 500 Aurum converted and 450 sold on the market as PLEX. You know, you could have those, okay? And as you reach different tiers, you know, like 200 here, 300, 400, and then all the way up here you got 20,000 or something ridiculous. And you unlock a box with every one of those. You've still got the boxes. You're still satisfying the whale's need to have a box within 5 minutes of it being released into the game. And you still get more PLEX on the market to then increase supply and lower the prices because of the whole supply and demand thing. I need to remember to do this the other way around when I'm on camera because It works for me doing that, but that looks like it's the wrong way around, that graph. But anyway, you know what I mean. This could work if they followed a path like that. We know they're committed to boxes. They've made that clear. So what if they just tied the box system into buying Plex and selling it on the market instead of just outright converting Aurum for boxes? It could work. It really could work. But you'd have to have that measure in there of it getting converted from Aurum to Plex. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with people buying Plex off the market and then reselling it again for a tiny little bit more just to get that ticker for I sold this much Plex on the market. You'd have to have some kind of control over it. But that would be an interesting idea. That would be an interesting idea. But anyway, I'm going off on a ramble now. Of course I am. Of course I'm going off on a ramble. My videos started at the very beginning with a ramble video. So anyway, thanks again for watching this far through to the end. I don't know how much recording time I've got behind me now. Probably about 20 minutes. Not including the bit that I lost. So yeah, if you're still here, feel free to hit that subscribe button. It really, really does help. And I'd really love it if by the halfway point of this year, say the middle of June, we got to 1,000 subscribers. That would be absolutely brilliant. It's only a small thing, but that one little subscriber button really does help. And if I could get this channel to 1,000 subscribers, there might be a few more things that I can do with it. But anyway, until then, thanks again for watching, and be sure to fly casual in New Eden.